my little banana splits. You are looking at my working altar, and it is currently Sunday the 14th of May as I'm filming this particular part of the video. I did mention a while ago, I think it was on my big witchy haul that I did, that it was a possibility that I may actually film for you guys the reconstruction of my altar space, what I'm doing with it, what I'm taking away, what's going to be staying, so that you can actually go through the process with me. Now, I thought about that on and off for a while. I know a few people said that they would be really interested in seeing that. I thought about it for a while and kind of tried to imagine myself like setting up the camera and actually going through the process and talking about what I was doing as I was going through it, or even just filming it and then just speeding it up and putting some music over it. And I came to the conclusion that I probably would overthink it way too much if I had an awareness of some kind of audience, you know? So if I had the camera set up, I would probably be worried about time, I'd be thinking about the battery, I'd be thinking about how much I wanted to explain, what I didn't want to explain and why, and all that kind of thing would just be going around, rattling around in my brain box. And I'm not necessarily sure that it would be the most convenient and the most kind of spiritually heightened way, if you like, of actually reconstructing the top of my altar, thinking about what I want to keep and designing it, etc. So what I wanted to do instead was just to show little clips of the process, so just showing the progress as it goes along rather than actually fully showing you the entire deconstruction and reconstruction, because I just feel like I want to feel like I'm alone with the act rather than worrying about what I'm saying, what I'm not saying, how I'm presenting it, how I'm explaining it and so on. So I've decided to do it this way instead. So this is my current altar setup, and I'll briefly talk you through what's going on because it's not really that different from when I actually did my altar tour for you guys, which I'll leave down below. If anybody didn't get a chance to check that out, then you can go over and do so. So I'll talk you through roughly what is going on and how I feel about my altar in its current state and what I think is going on, you know, how I feel about what is going on. I want to explain certain things like why I see my altar in 3 specific parts, what each of those 3 specific parts is, and then kind of how I want to continue with that sort of triad energy with the 3 different stages of the altar and how I'm planning to make that work. And then I'm going to try and take you through the construction of something new. Okay, so I kind of feel like there are 3 distinct different kinds of energies going on in my current altar space. Over here, this is very much obviously a space that's dedicated to my matron deity, the Norse goddess of the underworld, Hell. And here I have her prayer beads, I have stones associated with her, I have Hell's rune, I have another set of prayer beads that I use for her, I have got a special oil that I have made for her, the bracelet that I wear that shows my dedication to her as a daughter of Hell that I wear during rituals sometimes. Her candle, etc, etc. So that's all kind of this bit, I suppose, is representative for me of my matron deity. It's also representative of the archetype of the dark goddess or the dark mother as well, which I feel is just an extension of this specific shard of archetype that I really like to work with. And I have an ongoing relationship with Hell. Hell is an archetype and a figure that I really admire and I really feel an affinity with. I resonate with her closely. I feel like she and I have been on a journey together, and I like to have a representation of her, and that's not going to change, even though the degree to which I actually include her in my practice and my daily thoughts, etc., does change and is very variable. But her as a figure, as a staple figure, if you like, in my spiritual journey, that isn't up for debate. That's not something that's going to change. And so I always like to have a depiction of her, and this is a depiction that I created myself. So this is actually a collage that I made that is a depiction of Hell. I really like to make depictions of Hell in collage, and that's something that I do quite regularly. It's something that I consistently experiment with, and I'll definitely be showing you guys at some point some of the other things that I have done. So that's kind of this area. And then this area over here, this is much more Mother Mary centric. So you've got, again, the picture frame with Mary in it. You've got a couple of statuettes of Mary. You've got the Mary candle holder. There's holy water here with Mary on the front of it. There is a Mary prayer card here. So this is much more inclusive of my connection with Mother Mary. And I want that to stay as well. I recently did a video where I opened up the Mother Mary Oracle by Alana Fairchild and talked about my feelings about Mary. And I have done a video about my journey with Hell as well. So for anybody who's interested in either of those, I'll also link both of those videos below for you. Then I kind of feel like there is a little bit of a T shape on the altar, where other things are happening. And it kind of bleeds in to the hell and the Mary areas, okay? So here I've got my candles. They're all working candles, really. Sometimes candles will just be blessed and they will just be, you know, included on my altar, and I'll just use them as, you know, as a sacred fire, if you will. And sometimes there'll be candles on there that are consecrated for specific purposes, i.e. this pinky red one at the front here is for a specific thing. I'm burning it for a specific purpose. Then here in the front, I've got obviously my card drawing area. This is not just for daily draws, weekly draws, or readings for me. This is also a place where I do magic and ritual. I often work on my poppet here on this area. This area can be cleared off and used for other things, but generally there are cards on it. It's generally what I do on a daily basis, day by day, is to draw some cards on it. And I do actually normally keep the 3 decks that I work with here, over here on top of my Book of Mirrors and my gratitude journal, but at the moment I'm just working on some cleansing stuff over there, so they're not actually here at the moment. So obviously these things are not necessarily connected to the Divine Feminine. They're other things that I'm working on and doing, and other things that I need around, and the candle's the same. Then over here I've got kind of like my little area where I collect different objects together to form a physical collage of what is going on for me at the moment, what feels important for me at the moment. Sometimes the objects on there are objects that are sacred to me for one reason or another. Sometimes they're representative of things that I am working on in my spellcraft, or I'm bringing to mind in my meditations. Here I've got things that comfort me, but I've also got things that are there to remind me of certain things, certain commitments that I've made, certain things that are important to me. So this is very changeable, and this does change up quite regularly, and everything on here has a real importance to me for one reason or another. I mean, everything on the altar does, but everything in this little dish here, this kind of presentation tray, this is kind of like an ongoing evolutionary project, I think, that brings to life whatever is important to me in my life at any given moment. I consider this oil burner to also kind of be part of this little sort of tableau vibe. So over here on the far right hand side, I've got my crystal ball, and I've got my sound cleansing bell as well. These two things are not specifically hell-centric. They're not to do with hell. They are, again, what I consider to be part of this T shape of the altar, where other things are going on, rather than being connected to the Divine Feminine or connected to Mary or hell. And then also here, I've got my cauldron, and sometimes this area of the altar actually looks like a small apothecary. I'm not going to lie. There are normally loads of oils stacked here. There's normally stuff in this little space underneath the altar as well. I've normally got loads of oils under there too. Because I'm constantly working on blending things and trying things out and putting things on my skin, anointing my candles, you know, burning stuff. So normally there's a lot more going on here, but at the moment I've just got it down to some storm water, and this is some Canadian storm water that was sent to me by a subscriber that I like to have on here as well. So but normally this is like a little apothecary area, and my cauldron, which is becoming an increasingly important part of my practice. So although it's a bit higgledy-piggledy, and although it's probably a lot clearer to my eye than it will be to yours watching it, my feeling is that there is a triad vibe going on here. There's a trio kind of energy. So it's like a shard of the Divine Feminine that I'm particularly attached to, that I work with, another shard of the Divine Feminine, very different energy, but that I'm attached to and I work with, and then you've got this T section here where other stuff is happening. Now, I did mention that I do small workings on this area here, this china kind of plate here, but I also do bigger workings on the floor. So it's just smaller workings, and normally ongoing workings, of course, because I don't really want an ongoing working on the floor since my altar is in my bedroom. But ongoing small workings can happen on here as well. Sometimes I really love to lay my poppet out here and do workings of that nature on this black kind of china plate. But larger workings will take place on the floor, and ritual workings also take place on the floor normally. So normally I've got the altar lit up like a Christmas tree, and then I've got like a cloth placed on the floor, and I'm sat slightly back, and I draw sacred space around the whole fucking lot of it and get down to business on the actual floor. Although things may take place on the altar as well. You never know, I could end up taking up a big area of the room. So this is what it looks like at the moment. I've had this cloth on here for the longest time. I really love this altar cloth. I really enjoy it a lot. It's like white in the middle and then it fades to black around the sides, and I think it's just perfect. I think it's got a very hell-centric vibe for me with that kind of fusing of black and white. But I'm going for something completely different now. And what I've decided is that for me, I'm really comfortable with this trio of energies. I'm really comfortable with having lots of other things going on the altar that are practical, that I need to have. I like to have my book of mirrors and my gratitude journal on the altar because it really gives me the impetus to write in them and use them. I tend to find, or I did find in 2016, when I was leaving my books along the side, I was not getting them out enough. I wasn't using them enough. I didn't feel called. I didn't really feel like, you know, I wanted to write reams of stuff. But the thing is, I always want to write reams of stuff. I really am about that life, but I need to see the objects there, and then it occurs to me, and then I'm like, yep, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to work on. And so that's why I've got these things here. So I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. I'm not sure why I was saying that, but essentially, let me get back to the point. I knew this was going to be rambly as fuck, as per usual. I want to keep this trio energy. I want Mother Mary here, I want Hell safely ensconced over here, but I really like this vibe of all the other stuff going on. So I was talking to a client the other day, and they will very much know who they are, and I was telling them that they had inspired me so much to do something that I actually felt like doing a very long time ago when I was really much younger, but I never did it. I never had the opportunity to do it before. I never had a working altar this big before. I'm one of those people that has steadily graduated to this. You know, this has been a long fucking time coming, and when I moved into this flat, it was like this perfect alcove in the bedroom that was just, it just had pagan altar written all over it. It just had witchy space written all over it, and I got so excited. And obviously I've gone ahead and purchased an altar table that is suitable for the space, and it feels so right. It just feels like it's just safely tucked in here, and everything is just where it should be, and it feels incredible. It feels wonderful. But it's been a very slow graduation to this caliber of altar, and for me personally, I wouldn't say that it's more empowering, and I certainly would never deem to tell any witch that they need it in order to be more proficient or more effective or more consistent or any of those things. But for me, this is a huge relief. It's a huge relief to graduate to this. It feels good, it feels right, and it feels like I'm making a true commitment to the journey that I've been on for so long. And it's been rocky, it's been a weird road. You know, I first took the name witch when I was like 11 or 12 or something. I was very young. So I'm 32 now. A lot has gone on between then and now, and I'm not going to say it's always been plain sailing, because that would be an untruth. But it really feels like I've made this strong commitment here. And there was a very long time ago this thing that I loved in my childhood that I found to be so beautiful, and it's an object that every single one of you will know exactly what I mean when I say what it is. It's a three-way mirror, like a mirror that you put on your dresser, and it has a larger central mirror in the middle and then two smaller mirrors which are hinged onto it. And to me, it actually looks like an altar. It actually looks like a Catholic kind of Catholic church vibe of an altar. It's shaped like a church door usually, although you can get more modern ones that are rectangular, but most of them are shaped like a church door, and they've got the two smaller ones are shaped like a church door also. And when I was little, I used to love nothing more than sitting awake in the passenger seat or in the back seat. This is what I used to love. At night time, when it was only the street lights that were on, I used to love peering out of the window of a moving car that one of my parents was driving, and I would stare into the lit up windows of houses in neighbourhoods. When you were driving through a town or driving through a city, I would love nothing more than to stare out of the car window and peer in, like spy into people's lives, spy into people's windows and see what was going on in their homes. And I found this extremely interesting and an extremely profound experience to have, like I was getting little glimpses of other people's lives. I would love to know in the comments if anybody else was fond of doing that, because it was really what I was all about. And one of the key things that I used to love seeing and that I used to look for a lot was three-way mirrors on dressers in bedrooms, and quite often they are backing onto a window, and I used to see so many three-way mirrors, so many, and I would think to myself, when I get older, I'm having a three-way mirror, I'm having a sit-down dressing table and a three-way mirror. That's what I want. And I've grown up a bit more now, and I actually much prefer to have one of those sort of mirrors with a stand on it that you can adjust the height of it. And I like to, and you flip it, you know, so you've got one side where you can see every single pore in your face, and then the other side which is a little bit more normal. I like that mirror to do my makeup, so that's what I've got on my dresser. And I don't like to sit to do my makeup, I like to stand. I don't see the point in sitting down for any longer than I need to, considering the issues I have with my spine, so I prefer to stand and do my makeup, and that also makes me do it much quicker. It makes me waste less time, you know. So I've never had a three-way mirror for my makeup and whatnot, you know, on the vanity, because it's not what I ended up wanting. But I have had a few very strong feelings over the years that I would want a three-way mirror on my altar, and it actually makes complete sense because that means I get to keep that triad vibe. Now, I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work, but it is what I want to do, and I am going to attempt to do it. I'm going to attempt to make it work. It's going to be a slow process. I haven't actually got everything that I want for my altar yet, but I do have the three-way mirror. It did arrive the other day. I do have the cloth that I want. I've purchased a brand new altar cloth. I love the colour of it. It's like a sort of dusty mauve kind of colour, and I love it. I've got various things that I want on the altar that were not there before. I think it's going to look like quite the picture when it's finished, and it's going to be a really warm, inviting place for me to sit down and work on my contemplations and do my magic and everything else, and I'm so excited, and I'm looking forward to taking you guys on this journey with me over the course of this video. So what I plan to do now, and it's going to feel really weird because I haven't done it in the longest time. Everything on this altar has changed really slowly over time. It's been a very long time since I've actually completely deconstructed an entire altar setup and actually gone with something completely new. So I'm very excited. I have a playlist ready to enjoy this time, but like I said, it's been a long time since I've actually deconstructed an entire altar setup, and I'm feeling a little bit emotional about it because there is just so much about this altar setup that has it's seen me well. It's been good for me, you know. So there are lots of things I'm planning to keep. I'm not sure what the final thing is going to look like yet, but whatever I do tonight is not going to be the final thing. Like I said, there's something that I'm waiting on. There's a delivery that I'm waiting on for something that's specifically to do with the Mary side of the altar. I don't know whether or not it's going to work out, but I like the idea of it, so I'm going to see if it's going to work out. So yeah, there's a few things that I'm not sure if I'm going to get done tonight, but I'm going to basically deconstruct the altar and have a play, and I will either show you guys in the next part of the footage what it looks like when I'm done for the evening, or I might kind of like switch on the camera and give updates as I go, if I get ideas, if I get things that I want to say. So hopefully this will be interesting to you guys. So I'll see how I get on. Okay, and I'll see you in the next clip. So this is as far as I'm going to go tonight in terms of changing things, the new altar setup, figuring out how I want it to look, etc. I've had a little bit of a play. I've only been doing this for about half an hour, so it took a lot less time than I thought it was going to take everything off the altar, do a cleansing, do a physical cleaning, obviously, like just a dusting, etc. And then everything was dusted individually as it was put back on as well, so it really didn't take me that long, considering I thought it was going to take me a lot longer. Having the three-way mirror on the altar, I mean, it feels incredible. It's an incredible centerpiece. I totally love it. I know that you can't see the top of it right now, which is a crying shame, but I'm not going to take the camera off the tripod because if I do any more edits tonight, I want the camera to be in the exact same place. But I definitely will show, you know, finished pictures and everything. I didn't actually expect the mirror to be as tall as this, I must say. I was so taken with the mirror that I just sort of ordered it and didn't really think about how tall it would be, but I did look at the pictures that came with it. And, you know, obviously there were some objects placed strategically in the pictures so you could get a sense of how large the mirror was. And I must say, I think it's come up a lot larger than it was in those bloody pictures. But, you know, it's definitely something that I feel is going to be amazing for mirror work. I've always wanted to be able to do mirror work at the drop of a hat. I'm really excited about meditations with this. I'm excited about potentially also sticking things to it as well. Like, I'm going to definitely get more creative with it than you can actually see right now. That is absolutely for sure. So I really love the three-way mirror. However, it's taken a lot of room away. It's taken away a lot of space. So I've actually ended up having to put the cauldron in the front here, and kind of take away a few of the bits and pieces that were at the front to accommodate the altar. Sorry, to accommodate the cauldron, I must say. And I think the cauldron is going to have to come off of that stand for now, potentially. I don't know, I'll have to have a think. Obviously the oil burner isn't on there now. The oil burner is still here, waiting for its place. I do need it to be on there because I am making oils at the moment and playing with oils and stuff like that. So I suspect what is going to happen is, for now, I'm going to leave the cauldron on there on the stand. I'm going to place the oil burner behind, and then I'm going to have the oils I'm working with under there. I'm guessing for now that's how it's going to have to go down. But the only thing that I had to make a compromise on is the books, because I mean I had to decide between books here at this space or the candles. I don't know, I'm not sure how I feel about that compromise. I really like the books on the altar for the reasons I stated earlier, that it makes me dive into them. These aren't even all the books that I keep on the altar. Okay, I keep my like ordinary journal on there. I've just started a self-love journal. Like, I have books on the altar that I like to keep on there because it really keeps me dedicated and it keeps me connected to that dedication that I've made to writing. I really wanted my spirituality and my self-development to come together in 2017, and I wanted my exploration of the divine feminine to be a direct exploration of my divine feminine, and really about it exalting me and giving me empowerment and taking me where I want to go. So I want to bring, you know, I wanted to bring in to my spiritual experience things like considering how my workouts are going and stuff like that, like considering how my dietary kind of journey is going, all of that kind of stuff that you kind of tell yourself is kind of on the other side, I suppose. Like when you put a boundary between spirituality and personal development, I think you tell yourself that stuff like your diet and your workouts and stuff like that, or maybe like your friendships, issues that you're going through with a partner or whatever, family stuff, I feel like a lot of the time that doesn't get taken to the altar for a lot of people. It never used to for me. I used to see it as like a straight down split. You know, it was either self-development or it was spiritual work. And I decided in 2017 that I was going to completely scrub out that line, which has been blurred for me for quite a long time. But I decided in 2017 I was really going to just scrub it out and not, you know, pay heed to it anymore. So I'm really glad that that is happening. I'm really relieved that that's happening. And the books are a key part of that. The books and the decks are a really key part of making my journey and my strengthening and my empowerment into the central focus. So not having the books on here feels really weird, but not having the candles in their little fireproof tin also feels very weird. So I was kind of like swapping them out for each other for a bit, like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna sleep on it, basically. As you can see, there is some stuff on here that has changed, that is different, some stuff that is the same. I've got my little skeleton man here that I really liked because he has one black eye and one white eye, and that kind of like, that gives me a hell vibe. I've got my disco ball here that reminds me of a really good time with really awesome people that are very important to me. I've got a few other changes. I feel like things are a lot less sort of cluttered now, in a sense. I have slightly changed a couple of bits and pieces on my little memento tray, and I have got a little incense burner that I've kept at the front here. So behind the image of hell, I've actually placed this blue glass bottle that I purchased a while ago that I did feature in a haul, and I'm going to decant the oil that I've made for hell into this bottle because I haven't had a chance to kind of work with it and use it yet, and I really love it. So I'm going to pop that behind, and that is going to stay behind in order to kind of save room on the altar space, because yeah, this three-way mirror is really kind of taking up quite a bit of space, but I love it. I really love it. I think this is a really good decision, and I will sleep on the candles versus books situation for definite. I mean, ordinarily I do actually have a pink dinner candle on this side and a black dinner candle on this side, and I'm going to have to think about how I'm going to place them as well into the mix. But the reason that you guys aren't seeing them at the moment is because the candle holders that I was using for them are beautiful vintage 1950s green cut glass candle holders, and they're absolutely sumptuous, but the wax runs down them, you know, towards the end as the candle is really kind of nearing the end. The wax just starts to run down and it gets onto my altar cloth, and there is nothing more aggravating than that. And the last time that it actually happened, I heard it tapping onto the altar cloth. I heard the wax from my hell candle tapping onto the altar cloth while I was actually in the middle of doing the prayer beads, and it really just like snapped me out of it, and I was like, oh my god, and I blew the candle out and tried to sort my altar cloth out. That is not your most supreme spiritual moment. Okay, no one wants that happening while they're trying to do like their prayer beads in the morning. So my plan is to get some of those classic old school, very practical candle holders where you've actually got kind of the hoop that you put your finger into, and then, you know, you've actually got kind of a dish that holds the wax, you know, so any wax that falls down lands in the actual dish of the candle holder. I need to get some of them. I need to get some of those bad boys, and I can't seem to find any anywhere. I can't find any in charity shops. I can't find any in my homeware stores round about me. So I need to go online and order some of them, because I'm just so tired of worrying about my altar cloths and watching wax go on my altar cloths and having to sort it out. So that's why you're not seeing the candles, but the candles will be a regular feature again as soon as I've got some suitable candle holders and I've solved that little problem. So again, it's going to be a case of sort of shuffling things around, making room, deciding what I need, what I don't need, what is essential and what is not, because of this three-way mirror. But I don't care. It was worth it. It's pimping and I love it. It's pimp my altar. That's how I feel. So I'm really excited to work with this altar with the lights off and the candles going. And I think what I'm going to do before I sign off this segment is just to show you guys what it looks like with no lights on, with the candles going, so that you can see what I'm going to see when I'm actually sitting at the altar tomorrow night when things are a little bit more arranged. And I'm so excited for this, guys. So this is how it looks. Okay, so it's all lit up now and it feels very special, to be honest with you. Feels good. I'm really I'm happy with it. I'm still not sure about the candles not being in the centre, but those 4 candles, if they were going to be in the centre, they'd need to be at the back. And at the moment I kind of feel better with what I have going on at the back, especially the candle, this candle here, which I created myself out of an old jam jar, as I'm sure you can probably see. And this figure that you can see at the moment, this face is Lee Miller. And then I've also got 2 other faces so I can kind of rotate. So this face is Josephine Baker, and then I've also got Ella Fitzgerald is the last of the 3 figures on this particular candle. And I really love making candles like this because you can really, like, you can have several of your heroes or heroines or gods or goddesses, figures you're working with, and you can like just rotate it and enjoy the different faces of people you admire. So I really like making these are really fun. I want to keep that candle there because I just feel like it should be near the mirror. It's so beautiful, and the way it's all reflecting, and you know, it's next to the disco ball and stuff. Like, I just really love that. It definitely feels really special to me, so I want to keep that. But I'm not sure about there being so much light on this side, and I don't know, I just feel like I want more light on this side as well. But I'll see how I feel. I'll see how I go. I might have to disperse the candles around. I mean, the only one, I suppose, that it's important for me to have at the altar is this little pink red one down here. I feel like the white ones have all been blessed, but they haven't necessarily been purposed for my altar. I could burn them in other places around my apartment, you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But I'll think about it, and I'll have a little think, and I'll have more of a play. I'll let you guys know how I'm feeling again. But this is just really, this is gorgeous. I was thinking about lining the top of the mirror with fairy lights. I'm not sure if I want to get as complex as that. Again, I'm going to have a think about it. But at the moment, this feels good, you know, for what it is. This definitely feels like something I can work with and something that feels appropriate for me. So this has been the changing of my altar. And yeah, it's been really awesome to share this with you, and I'll share some other altar related thoughts in this video too. Hey baby cakes, I hope it was interesting for you guys to see the switch around in my altar setup and just listen to a few of my thoughts and ideas on that. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about how I feel about the finished altar space, what I've been doing there, and just a few thoughts and feelings I have on changing up your altar and what the setup means, and just stuff like that really. I'm going to ramble for about as long as I've got time for, because I'm supposed to be going out in a little while. But also, I did ask over on Instagram when I showcased a picture or 2 of my new altar if there were any questions or any themes or kind of considerations that people could think of that they wanted me to talk about as well. And I got a few really interesting ones, so I'm going to do a few of them too. I've personally been considering this altar change for quite some time, but I've been putting it off and mulling it over, and the reason that it actually came into being finally was because I knew that I was gearing up to do some healing work. I knew that I was going to be doing at least 7 consecutive days worth of healing work, and I wanted a whole new altar setup. I wanted a whole new feel to it because I wanted to really be committed and dedicate myself and get super focused, and I just felt like it would be really good to kind of coincide the change of the altar setup with the introduction of this healing work that I'm doing. So the healing work started on Monday night, and it definitely felt very different and very potent, and really everything just clicked into place so wonderfully because I just had this very excited new energy and just a serious desire to spend like massive amounts of time at the altar anyway, so for it to coincide with that was really good. So I definitely recommend, if you know that you want to do some work that goes over a number of consecutive days, or you want to do work for 28 days, or you want to do some kind of like consistent like vigil or something of that nature, then I definitely recommend changing things up, getting that fresh energy going, or at least kind of changing up part of the altar so that you've got a dedicated space for that specific work. I've got a massive lisp today. Blah. I've got a little bit of an ulcer on the end of my tongue, and I'm so distracted by the sound of me. The sound of this. It's driving me crackers. I hope it's not bothering you guys. Sorry, nothing I can really do about it. There's a little lump on the end of my tongue there. What can I do? What can I say? So yeah, I would recommend, if you have anything that you're planning on doing, that you're gearing up to, that you're trying to get in the mood for, or you're trying to really like prepare yourself for and commit yourself to, definitely make some kind of change on the altar setup. That is a super good idea. I want to mention one of the reasons for the use of a mirror on my altar that I don't think I actually mentioned during the previous 2 videos where I was talking about the changing of the altar and showing you the setup, and that is that I'm really interested in doing some mirror work. I'm interested in bringing that far more into my practice, and I would like to do a video or 2 about mirror work just to explain how I see it and the way that I personally use it. And I wanted to, you know, be able to do that. I wanted to be able to kind of bring that into my practice easily by having the mirror right there. And the other thing I want to mention is that the mirror itself, I'm afraid, is mass produced. I looked around for a vintage 3-way mirror, and the only couple that I could find that I actually liked, that I thought were giving me really good juju and were what I kind of wanted, which was that kind of Venetian sort of church-like feel, were abroad. They were both in the US. The shipping was insane. The price of one of them was actually a little bit insane. I started to just get really aggravated as I was looking around for vintage ones and secondhand ones. It wasn't working out for me at all, and I just felt like, you know what, this idea might not even work out. I might not even like it. It seems like, you know, something really odd and unorthodox for a witch to do is to have like a great big mirror right in the center of their altar. Like I'm sure I'm far from the first person to do it, but you know, you don't see it every day. So I thought maybe just give it a trial run. So I did go with something mass produced, but it is exactly what I wanted. Like, it looks exactly as I envisioned it would look. So a couple of people have asked me where I got the mirror from, or if it's vintage, and it is not vintage, I'm afraid to say. It wasn't for want of trying, but I just couldn't find what I was after, so I picked this one up from Argos. I'm just going to be honest. I feel like it's made the altar into a little bit of a showstopper. I kind of think when you walk into my bedroom, your eye is drawn to the altar anyway, but the mirror and the mask behind the mirror, like, it really does kind of draw your eye to it, and I like that, you know. It feels like, when I look over it, it feels like home. I feel like I want to go over there and I want to sit in front of it. I'm really happy that I did this. I'm definitely still playing, I'm definitely still experimenting with things, moving things around. There is actually another unit to the left of my altar space that I will soon enough be able to use as a secondary part of my altar. So I'm not too worried about the fact that I can't fit like the books and the candles on the altar at this point. I know that I'm going to be able to have extra space once we actually move the lizard's vivarium, and I'm going to have all of that space next to my tarot table. So that whole area of my bedroom is basically just going to be super spiritual and defined by my witchhood and my job as a spiritual counsellor and a card slinger and all that good shizzle. So it's getting that way. It's getting to the point where I'm going to have more room. Okay, I'm going to go onto Instagram and find out what people would like me to talk about. I'm having a lot of trouble getting my boyfriend to respect the space I set up for my altar. I've asked him multiple times now and explained why it's important to me, but he just brushes it off, jokingly calls it my devil worship, and continues to leave his wallet, headphones, mouthguard there and rifle through stuff that I place there. Any advice? Or do I just accept that he won't ever respect anything remotely spiritual about me? He's a hardcore atheist. Thanks, Kelly. I would personally never choose to share my world, my life, my body with someone for any length of time who didn't respect my spiritual journey. They don't have to want to know about it. They don't have to want to be, you know, balls deep in it. They don't have to, you know, convert to it or want to read books about it, but they have to respect it. They just have to respect it. And that is, for me, a practice of self-love. That is a practice of self-love. I am loving myself by being sure that I would only invite people into my inner sanctum if they really were respectful of this path, which has done so much for me, which defines so much of who I am, and, you know, which really informs a lot of my character. And I think that every single person who is serious about the path that they're walking needs to ask themselves if they also need to make that same kind of commitment, that same kind of stand that I've done. I can't answer that question for you, but I know for a solid gold fact that it wouldn't last between me and that guy. There's no way. Sometimes I think if somebody has never had a spiritual practice, they've never appreciated the value of a spiritual path, they may also have had difficulties or traumas of their own with relation to organised religion, dogma, being shoved down their throats or whatever. I'm not, you know, I don't have any context for your boyfriend. I don't know who he is, but I do know that that can happen to people, and there is a certain style of very sort of toxic, combative, militant atheism, which I find often comes out of being a reaction to that kind of dogma. Like, that's where it comes from. I think people like that don't realise how much harm they're doing and how hurtful they are being when they mock your spirituality or when they criticise it. One thing that you could definitely consider doing in the coming weeks is actually sitting down with your boyfriend and just having a little bit of a summit and really just seriously saying to him, look, this is a deal breaker for me, okay? This is a no compromise zone. You are disrespecting a sacred space, and I know that you can't wrap your head around it, and I know that, you know, for you spirituality and religion just doesn't compute. But for me, it is important, and for me, this is a deal breaker. It's not funny. I want you to take it seriously, you know, and really go there. I think if there's an ultimatum that is really born out of love and born out of the desire to get the other person to understand, and it's very genuine, that can go a long way. The kind of ultimatum where you're like, hey, baby, I love you, okay, but this has got to be the end of the line for this kind of attitude and this kind of behaviour. I'm a witch and it's central to my identity. It's a very important thing. So please pop your mouth guard elsewhere, sugar plum, okay? And then when you give your partner that ultimatum, the way that he behaves afterwards, I really think tells you all you need to know. For you to level with somebody like that and have them still blatantly disrespect your sacred space after you've really been so honest about why you need for that not to happen, I think you're getting more information out of that than you probably bargained for. You're getting information about the state of your relationship and how much it really means to him. Fucking hell, that was some really full-on advice. I don't know, I feel a lot about that, you know. I'm quite a self-deprecating person. I'm a person that doesn't take herself too seriously in a lot of ways. I like to laugh at myself. I know that I can be quite ridiculous. And, you know, I don't take my spirituality seriously all the time. We can have a giggle, we can have a la ha half and a half, all right? But there comes to be a point, okay? There is a line, there is a fucking line, and nobody in my life would ever put something on my altar or anything like that. Nobody would ever come and blatantly disrespect it. Nobody would ever try to humiliate me in public by talking down about my spirituality. Like, that would never happen. I think you can make comedy out of anything, and I think if you really love and trust somebody, then you can be funny, ha ha funny with them about something. But I think you should also be able to be serious and say, look, there's a line and you're crossing that line, and please, if you love me, don't do that. How do you keep your altar space clean? You've talked before about daily connecting with your altar and necessary maintenance, but for me, taking all the little knickknacks off to dust or wash is a chore and a bore. Yes, it is a chore and a bore. I've got a couple of feather dusters that are really good. Like, if I just put my hand over the object and then feather dust around and then put my hand and feather dust around, that kind of does the trick, you know, that does do the job. I have had times in my life where I didn't have an altar cloth because I really felt like the altar cloth was attracting a lot of the dust, and it was quite difficult to clean without taking everything off it and actually wiping my hands along it. So I went through a big bunch of time where I didn't have an altar cloth, and I felt like that was quite helpful. I don't know if that's going to be helpful to you. Sometimes it does help to see the cleaning process as an opportunity to actually kind of redo the altar and move things around and have a little bit of variation so that it's kind of more exciting and less of a chore. And sometimes I just fucking leave it to get dusty for a few days, to be completely honest with you. Like, that is the actual truth of it. Sometimes that's what I do. I just have to be real. A lot of dust is dead skin, and dead skin is so sacred. It's so sacred. Do you plan out your altar, or do you just go with your gut when rearranging the sacred space? I usually plan it out in my head, to be honest with you. I normally have an idea of the altar cloth that I'm going to want and where I'm going to want things and why. And I build that up in my head slowly over time. And actually in my Filofax, in my small pocket Filofax that I keep in my bag, there are a couple of pages that are just full of notes about what I want my altar to look like and what kinds of colours I want and just concepts and stuff like that. And that's actually from ages ago. That is actually from over a year ago, before I got my larger altar. So I wasn't even in this apartment right now where I can have this really massive altar and just sort of luxuriate in that. I started writing these notes before when I had a teeny tiny weeny little sort of I don't know what you'd call it, like it was kind of a nest of 3 tables that my mum had, and she gave me the littlest one for my altar because that's how much space I had. Literally I had so small a space for my altar. Because I lived in a shared house before, so I only could have my altar in my room, and my room was already pretty full. And then I moved into another shared house with another bunch of friends, and so that little altar table really did me well. But it's obvious that I was already dreaming about bigger and better things, because there are notes in my Filofax that explain that I want like Catholic kitsch, and I want to feel like I'm in a church and that kind of thing. And I'm sure I mentioned that I want flowers, and I've actually got kind of like the flowered mask, and I don't think it's actually in the footage that I've uploaded, but there are now flowers on the top of the mirror as well. I've got flowers around my hell image. So, you know, these things have come to fruition. These things have actually come to be. And that was just from me writing notes about what I wanted my altar space to look like a long time before I had the opportunity to have anything quite this grandiose. I have definitely, however, created altar spaces where I was not sure what I wanted. There have been a hell of a lot of them as well, where I've just literally started playing around with things, repositioning things, and just being like, what is the word? Do I like that? And just waiting for things to click into place. And to be honest with you, I think that kind of experience can be very informative. It informs me about what's going on in my life or what I need in my spiritual life. There's something to it that when I actually watch myself moving all of these different objects into various positions, it kind of unlocks information about me or about what my desires are or where I'm going with something. And so that can be an interesting kind of sand play type vibe. There's a couple of people mentioning that they've noticed that I have a tiara on my altar, and they have a tiara too. So big ups the witchy tiara massive. I'm loving the groovy disco ball. I should put my lava lamps on my altar. I imagine it will be good for divination. Yeah, do it, absolutely. Oh my god, scrying into a lava lamp. Can you imagine? The disco ball is something from a festival that I went to earlier this year, and I have it on the altar to remind me of that ridiculously good time. And that good time was indicative to me of where my priorities ought to lie and what I've manifested for myself, and just all good things in the universe and all good beautiful people and situations. I've got a lot of good feels for that disco ball. I've always loved disco balls anyway, but believe it or not, I was wearing that one around my neck at a festival earlier this year and that's why it's there. And the mask comes from the same festival. My friends Lisa and Jenny bought me that mask to wear to the festival, so that's why I have that there as well. I think it's beautiful. I think it looks really striking and it's a really eye-catching object, but it's there principally because it reminds me of that incredibly good time and all of the good vibes that were sown in that good time, and I carry those vibes with me now, you know, so I love to have it for that reason. It's a powerful object for that reason. What do you think of the idea of having an entire room as an altar or dedicated to a certain deity, concept or influence? I think if you've got the room to spare and you can have something like that, you can have a dedicated room to something, I think it's marvellous. I think like all power to people that can do that and have actually the space and the money to do that. I think part of the reason people do it is because it drowns out all other considerations and all other influences and lets you really zoom in on the focal point, you know? So you can give everything to that focal point because you're completely surrounded by a space that's dedicated to that focal point. So I think that's really cool. And when I was going to say when I was younger, but honestly it was right up until like my mid-20s, I used to think that there was something so decadent and so unattainable about the idea of having a room dedicated to even just my witchy stuff or my art stuff. Like the idea of having an art room, a room just for my art, or a room just to do my tarot readings, or you know, a room just to witch in. Like, to me, that was incredibly fucking decadent. Space was at a real premium when I was young. We lived in tiny, pokey little houses. There was me, my brother, and my sister, and there wasn't a lot of room. And, you know, I always just felt like I would love space. I used to be really jealous of people that had, like, spare rooms and, you know, making decisions about what they were going to do with their spare rooms. Like, I just thought that was so another fucking planet. I never thought that I would be able to pursue that kind of thing. That seemed like a distant dream to me. But nowadays, I think it's a lot more possible. Yeah, I definitely intend to have, as I move into bigger properties and stuff like that, I definitely intend to have like a dedicated witchy room and a dedicated office for my tarot stuff. Like, I don't see it as quite so out of the box now as I did before. I don't see it as quite so unavailable to me. Do you have an attachment to the table that you use? Does it have a meaning to you? Yes, I have a huge attachment to the altar table that I use, and it has a massive meaning to me. I got it very soon after we came down here to the seafront, and it was one that Danny actually spotted for me in a secondhand shop, and came home and said to me, I've found a piece of furniture that I really think could be your altar. I get a really good feeling from it. It goes with the other furniture in the bedroom. It's got some sort of dark green paneling on the front. Like, I'm really thinking, and it would totally fit the space. Like, it measures perfectly with space down each side, so you can get your like books of shadows and stuff in down the side. And I was like, take me to it, baby. And I saw it, and I was just like, yeah, this is totally the one. I have absolutely no idea for the fucking life of me why it didn't occur to us to book a taxi to get this thing home. But we did not book a taxi. We actually walked the thing up the fucking hill, back up to our house. And that incline on that hill, it's just like not the one. We really just shouldn't have done that. We were absolutely exhausted by the time we got home. I had both of the drawers, one under each arm, and Danny had the actual body of the thing. And by the time we got home, we were sweating, panting, exhausted messes, like barely able to construct sentences. It was so ridiculous. I don't know why we did it like that, because we could have just booked a taxi and then just waited and got the thing in the taxi, but it just didn't occur to us. We wanted to do things the hard way. we wanted to just really push ourselves, and we got some good cardio that day, believe me. But the memory that I have in my head of us doing that, and the dedication that it took, and Danny just like dying by the end, and us finally getting it here and cleaning it, and yeah, just safely ensconcing it in my little bit. Got my little bit, my altar bit. It's a great story and a great feeling, and I'm glad that it was something that we got here, that it was something that we actually got in our new town, and I've got a massive connection to it for that reason, and I love it. It's perfect. It's actually perfect. It fits the space perfectly. I love it. Really couldn't be happier with it. I would love to hear what your altar must-haves are for release work, specifically or in general. Release work. My altar must-haves are definitely prayer beads of some kind. I tend to find that if I write down a certain series of like 4 different things that I'm saying that invite release, that specify that I am willing to let go, I'm willing to see things differently, I'm willing to be free, I'm willing to lift the burden, anything like that, I normally sit down and I write a list of kind of 4 different affirmations or statements which fit the intention for the release, for the healing. I work on those beads every single day. So if I decide that I'm going to pray those beads like for the next 10 days, and that's what I do. If I decide I'm just going to pray those beads once and then see how I feel, that's what I do. But there's something about the repetition of a statement or an intention or an affirmation over and over and over and over again that I feel creates a kind of vortex of space inside of me for the possibility of that release to actually come into being. And that's kind of how it works for me. I also would say tarot and oracle cards are great because it can be really difficult for us to unhinge ourselves from difficult memories, past experiences, old relationships that are now dead and gone. It can be hard to accept that something's gone, and that's what a lot of release work is about. So often we need to delve into the reasons why we're holding on to these things and actually look for different mindset shifts that we can welcome into our consciousness in order to allow the release to take place. And I find tarot and oracle decks to be really, really useful for that. One thing that I really love for any kind of release work is to set fire to things that I've written and burn them. And so I suppose you could say that a staple for my kind of release work is my cauldron, which is actually always on my altar because I do so much fire related work now. That's something that I would definitely recommend. It feels so powerful to write stuff down and then set fire to it. And when you set fire to it and burn it in the cauldron, it can mean that you release whatever is written on the paper, or it can mean that you're calling in whatever you've written on the paper, you know, so it can go both ways, and I use it in both ways. But when I'm doing release work, I really like to just write down you know, details about the hurt that I feel, the difficult memories that I've got, the negative mindsets I'm hanging on to, all that kind of stuff, maybe the anger, and then I just burn that stuff. And I've done that over and over and over and over again, and it's just so, it's so rejuvenating. It's so, oh, I don't know what the word even is. It's restorative. It's a restorative process. So I would definitely say that that is a staple. You know, whatever works for you, I think horses for courses, really. I would be interested in hearing your process of when you bring something new onto the altar. If you have a cleansing ritual, or how do you prepare items for this purpose? That is a really good question. When it comes to whether or not I'm going to be cleansing things before I place them onto the altar, I just let my intuition inform me. I do not feel that absolutely everything has to go through a blessing and a consecration. It really depends on the nature of the tool. It depends on what I'm going to be using it for, and it depends on how I feel about it when I actually acquire it. So for example, this is a really good example. I opened up my April moon box, and inside the moon box there were two things that I instantly felt very attracted to, that I knew I wanted to use on my altar pretty much immediately. The first was an aragonite star, a small crystal, and the other was a set of mala beads. Yes, I finally got my fucking hands on some mala beads, and they're made of none other than jade and green jasper, which is crackers considering the green jasper that I talked about in my last haul. So thank you very much, Moonbox, you legends. Yeah, so I had this aragonite star and these mala beads, right? And I knew that I wanted both of them on my altar. I knew that I wanted to use the aragonite star also for tarot readings. Now, the aragonite star was giving me all good feels. It was giving me all the goodness. I really felt like this was just an object that I could immediately bond with. I immediately was playing with it. There was just something really sumptuous about the energy. I didn't feel like that needed any cleansing whatsoever. I did not feel like I needed to make that object mine. I felt like it already was mine, and anything it was carrying within it or around it was just all good vibes. The mala beads, on the other hand, even though it was evident that they were brand new and they came from, you know, someone who'd made them and sewn them together and all the rest of it, it wasn't like they were secondhand. It wasn't like they had anyone's sort of old energy on them. But I felt like they needed to be indoctrinated into my energy. I felt like the energy that they held was a little bit nondescript. It was kind of neutral, so I really wanted to put them through a blessing and consecration process. And for me, that normally involves passing them backwards and forwards through some incense that I've actually kind of dedicated to the process of object consecration. And I also then have some words of power that I say over the object, and I've been using those same words of power for fucking years. And so I did that with the mala beads, but I didn't do that with the crystal. So I hope that answers your question about where I am in that kind of area, you know. Like, for me, it's really about using my intuition to establish what I need to do. And if I do feel like I need to make the object mine, and it needs to feel more certain, and it needs to be kind of like stamped with my energy, then I will do that. But if I don't feel that's necessary, then I won't do it, you know. That's just how I roll. That's how I do things, darling. That's how I do things. You've got to find your own way in life, you know, and that's mine. That's my way. Guys, it's been a blast. I hope you've had a good time. I hope this has been interesting, illuminating, inspiring, and all that good shizzle. Much love until next time. Blessed be.